rights are you here about?
Biological women.
What?
We know what they are. Do you? Biological women?
Biological women is... So...
It's women, yeah?
So that's XX chromosomes, right?
Yeah, women.
There are men with XX chromosomes. Yeah, there are. Total androgen insensitivity syndrome. Have you ever heard of it?
What?
Total androgen insensitivity syndrome. It happens when you have somebody...
Do you think that the men
Oh,
dresses
sorry.
over there have that?
I've got that mixed up.
Yeah.
That's XY female.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are XX men.
Okay. There aren't. If you're not going to accept biology, that we're operating on a different psychological plane.
This march here is demanding that men have access to women's spaces, despite the fact that the highest court in our country has ruled that that is not, in fact, the law. And it has been the law that men are not permitted to go into women's spaces since 2010. We've come today, there's only 5 of us. We're all young people, we're all in our 20s. And we always get, TERFs always get accused of never having young people on side, that young people don't care about this. I can tell you there are so many young people who care about this, but they can't be here because they're risking their degrees, they're risking their future careers just by saying that women are female and that they should be able to have the right to single-sex spaces. I don't have much to lose anymore, but some of the people here do, and they're taking a big risk by being here, but there are so many other young women in particular who wish they could be here, but they're so scared that if they get seen saying that women are female, that they will lose out on their future, lose friends, etc.
And the reason you don't care is because you were cancelled from your uni, weren't you?
I was, yeah.
Do you want to share about what happened?
I was removed from my committee position at Leeds Student Radio for my gender critical views. Yeah, so it's something I believe in. You know, as Sal Grover says, it's very rare that you're 100% right about something, but we are 100% right about this. And I used to believe what they did, and then I read the evidence, and I couldn't believe that I ever followed so blindly, something that is just so ludicrous. I mean, we are, as Maeve was saying earlier, we're just operating on completely different levels of reality because they deny material facts. And the point is, if they were women, they wouldn't be protesting this. They are all men who are doing it. Sarah Jane Baker, who was leading this protest, was in prison for 30 years because he tortured a child. And he's demanding access to women's spaces. Like, Jesus Christ, how can these people follow him?
What do you say to the trans people who say that trans people aren't dangerous? I mean, it could be a small minority, but they're not all dangerous.
No, they're not, but not all men are dangerous either, but we exclude all men from our female spaces because enough men, and we don't know how to tell which men are dangerous or not, and there's no evidence to suggest that men who identify as women are any less likely to commit sexual offences. If anything, the stats that we do have suggest that they're inclined to commit them more. So we want to exclude all male people from female spaces, no matter how they identify. It's not about whether they're trans, it's because they are men.
First instinct is to empathise, and it's true, if somebody's going through, I mean, a lot of these people will cite gender dysphoria as the reason for their desire to transition. Honestly, I question that in some people. I think there's often, especially in older males, something a lot more sinister at play relating to paraphilias. But regardless, especially in younger people and especially in young women that we know who've attempted to transition, I feel for them in that gender dysphoria must be an awful thing, but I think that they're being failed by, groups like this. They're being failed by an ideology that's lying to them. They've been failed over and over again, basically medicinally, and I think it's a real shame. If you're suffering with gender dysphoria and your mental disconnect with your body is so strong and you feel so uncomfortable on a day-to-day basis, you need to get help. You don't need that to be affirmed via some semblance of transition. That will only ever be an attempt because it's impossible to change sex, and we know that.
Say to trans people that stick on a pair of tits and wear a dress and they call themselves a woman, is that not being a woman?
I would say that actually you can be a man and feminine. That has nothing to do with your manhood or the problem with this movement is that it reinforces quite regressive gender roles by saying if you are a man and you like wearing skirts, it makes you a woman. Does that mean I'm not a woman because I'm not wearing a skirt today?
The reality is, I think it's a more liberal standpoint that we hold. You should be able to acknowledge biology, not pretend that you can erase it in some semblance of, transition, whatever that may mean for a given person. And then you should be able to abandon, expression stereotypes while still, accepting the fundamental reality of your sex. I think that's important. These people are regressive. It's so disappointing when you look across the board, the way that a lot of these men who consider themselves to be women, the way they choose to present is actually, it betrays the way that they obviously see women. They think to have huge prosthetic breasts, they think to wear this sort of bimboified clothing, they think having long hair, huge amounts of makeup. This is clear that they're sort of masquerading as women. They're putting on women face, as some people like to say. And it's really disappointing because it betrays everything that they clearly think when they think about women. It's really disappointing, and I think there's true misogyny at its core.
I've condensed it. I said basically in the beginning that I was raised on the tolerant left. I used to be an ally. So like most, when COVID hit, I ended up chronically online. It was during that time that I finally saw just how deranged the left had become, that there was no way around it. My tolerant left had gone and lost its fucking mind, trading intolerance chips for totalitarianism, for some shut up, get on your knees and comply. Misogyny, that slimy hand around women's throats that I saw as a child, misogyny had a revamp. It was glamorous now, all sparkly. It had some flags and new allies. Violent beta males wearing hankies on their faces, giving a wink and a nod to their comrades while screaming down women who just don't fancy having girl dick shoved in their daughters' faces in the change rooms at the pool. Their green-haired 20-something female conspirators feeling righteous while shielding trans-identified men who'd raped little girls and then had their chance with female inmates while imprisoned with them against their will. Freshly anointed trans women athletes mopping the tracks and stalls of the blood, sweat and tears of female athletes who they'd beaten, those tirelessly dedicated women from whom they'd stole. Women were just a feeling. We weren't mothers anymore, we were birthers. I hadn't breastfed for 3 long years, sore and overtouched breasts, loving but dazed and tired from sleepless nights. I chest fed for inclusion. Our lesbian and gay friends weren't allowed same-sex attraction. Their orientation was just a genital preference for backwards boomers, too vanilla and hate-filled to enjoy someone's vagina without wincing or take that organic strap because it's real and so it's better, ladies. Now suck it. Pedophiles had a rebrand too. Minor attracted people they were, stunning and brave and here to stay. And if we made a peep about it, we were alt-right fascists, or the slightly lesser charge alt-right fascist adjacent, because apparently safeguarding children is violent. Protecting their little bodies is far right. I used to be an ally, but now after having my compassion as a woman weaponized against me, being abused by filthy misogynists and their tragic brainwashed handmaidens, watching our lesbian sisters have to fight again for men to get the out of their bedrooms and social spaces. Reading of countless women and children getting raped and discarded by decrepit autogynephiles wearing woman face like it's our skin, and watching all of those trans folks and trans allies kick back and just deny, denouncing detransitioners like they were the new suppressive persons and thus all but the scum of the earth, yet not a word about the sick and twisted men claiming womanhood who were harming us, representing them in their name, no less. And not a side glance, of course, at all the trans-identified women and girls, forcing nothing, forcing no one save for the muscle and sinew to be cut from their bodies for the sake of simulacrum. It's funny that. I'll politely state for the record it's my preference not to be called a cis woman. I don't qualify my existence in relation to another's, which is especially the case for narcissistic Trojan horses. I will be referred to as a woman, as a female, as a feminist, and not their brand of feminist, but my own. Because women far stronger than us fought long and hard for us to be standing here, and there isn't a misogynist alive who has the chops to change my mind. But they'll call me a TERF regardless, and I'm at the point where I just don't care. Your ad hominems, they're no good here. You can't cash in that guilt by association. Your redirections, projections, smear campaigns, mistruths, and flying monkeys they all alter course and land squarely back on you, because reality defines who I am, who we are. I exclude no females from that shared reality, not one. All are welcome here and welcome to return, even those handmaidens, especially the handmaidens, because they won't always be safe from those pitchforks that they're wielding. They're not men, so they're disposable. And if they speak out in turn, then they'll get turned on too. We've been through worse and we've survived because we're women. We're built different. We're observed, not assigned. And nothing enrages a misogynist more than a woman saying no while insisting that she knows her own mind.
Australian